This week, Thursday, on AFTV Picks, it's the big one. Arsenal versus Slavia Prague. And because it's so big, we're giving away a big prize. You can win yourself a share of £1,500. You've got to be over 18 to enter. Select your options, click the link in the description, and a share of £1,500 can be yours.
Hi guys, and welcome back to AFTV. We're here with the build-up. I've not got my usual partner with me, but I do have Turkish. How you doing, Turkish?
Yeah, well, I'm becoming the usual partner.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I've seen a bit too much of you this week, actually.
Yeah, just downstairs I called Jason James. I was thinking,
you did.
Seen too much of James.
I wasn't sure if I'd heard that right. I was like, there's only one James. How you doing?
I'm good, as good as can be, knowing that our season rests upon a game that starts in a couple hours, to be exact.
A quarter-final in the Europa League versus Slavia Prague is what our season comes down to.
It's what the club have done to us.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that. Cecil, as we mentioned on a few shows that he's not been around for, he's doing some big stuff, and he'll kind of reveal that all in good time, and obviously we're wishing him well with all that. We do miss him, but this is, why we're here, because we have the numbers to cover. We need
to take care of.
Yeah, the Arsenal don't stop for us, which is, you'd think. But a few things we want to chat about. We're going to talk about, I thought with having you here, you've followed the club and you've kind of made it a mission of yours to always look at the bigger picture, right? There's Arteta, there's the players, but there's more to it, and you've always, and I thought, I had this opportunity to have you here on the build-up, and I thought this is a good time, because we're playing a game where I stopped and think, Slavia Prague, Europa League quarter-final, this is our game of the season. And I thought, no better time to chat to you about kind of the bigger, wider issues of the club. I want to end on some positives, because actually, despite everything, I do believe that there are positives about the club, and whether it's players or certain direction or staff, whatever it is. And before we go into that, I thought I'd get your opinions on something team selection wise. We've got the starting 11 coming out in an hour. So let's get into it. Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. Good win, clean sheet.
Yeah.
I think we did what we was asked to do, or what we wanted as fans for the team to do.
Yeah.
Just go in there, get the job done, and get out.
Yeah, 3-0, comfortable. Would
have been nice to see a few new faces or fresh faces in there, but I guess, with this match being the cup final for us, I guess you had to make sure a couple of those players maybe get a win under their belt. Yeah.
Do you subscribe to more it's Sheffield United, yes, it's good, but let's not get ahead of ourselves? Or are you more like, hold on, they're still a Premier League club, and it's impressive nonetheless to go and win 3-0 away from home? Because I think if that result and performance had happened in October, we'd be saying, brilliant, well done Arsenal, that's a really encouraging result. Almost feels like with the circumstance of everything, we're refraining from getting too excited about it.
Definitely, and I am on that side of the fence, if I'm honest with you. I didn't see much in that game, it's more preparation for this one tonight.
Yeah, I hear that.
Reason being, because there's nothing left in the league, from my perspective as a fan. I know some fans would still like top 6, some fans would still want to finish as high up the league table as possible. But for me as an Arsenal fan, I know that's not going to help us establish any development or moving forward this summer.
Yeah.
What could is getting into Champions League.
Yeah.
That's why tonight is so important. The league has no direction to get into the Champions League where we've left off. Of course, in October that result would seem very different. But when the pressure's on, that's when Arsenal fail to live up to the expectations.
It's true, and I think a lot of people. And maybe something I should have spoken about more in this show before the Sheffield United game. Sheffield are bottom, and rightly so, they've been the worst team in the league. But a lot of games they were losing by a goal or dropping points where they've been unlucky. And, the points are slightly deceiving in terms of actually where they rank. Yes, they're not very good, and yes, they probably are the worst team in the league. But I always find, West Brom, look what they did to Chelsea, and Fulham, they had a good run. They went to Anfield and won. These teams, they can spring a surprise. So I'm glad we took that win into what is a huge game tonight. I wanted to ask you, we're going to look at, this was the starting 11 against Sheffield United, except for Gabriel's come in, just because I expect him to come in for tonight's game. Interesting, we saw Saka in the 10. I know we talked about this a lot on full time, but I just wanted to get your impression of the formation, the players, who you expect to still see tonight. Do you think there'll be wholesale changes?
There is very rarely wholesale changes.
Yeah.
And I can understand that, because there's very little hope in any 11 we put out there in terms of being very optimistic about it. So I think what we saw against Sheffield United, we've kind of got to take it in.
Yeah.
With Tierney out.
Yeah.
Cedric inconsistent on that left-hand side. The left-back position being a problem now. I'm not saying Xhaka's the answer to it, but I think going against Prague with the same approach we went in against Sheffield United, similar sort of outfit, in my opinion, to how we should be looking at them. You know, roll over them and get it done.
I would think so too. The problem is, it's the stakes, isn't it? We said this before in our preview, that it's the mental battle that Arsenal have to get over tonight. It's not, listen, skill-wise and team versus team, player versus player, we're better than them. It's getting over the mental hurdle.
Yeah. We got a super chat here before you
take it, absolutely. Yeah.
Christian, he says, afternoon lads, let's hope Arteta chooses the strongest team. And Christian, I'll just fire it back at you. What is the strongest team? You know, I can tell you my preferred lineup. I think James can tell you his, and Christian, you can tell us yours. But in reality, we've pretty much seen it all with this squad of players, and we haven't got the results that help us bind together maybe performance and strongest 11.
And I think that's been a problem for Arteta, because I think for a lot of the year he's not known his strongest team.
Yeah.
I think there's still, Odegaard's been a revelation since we've signed him, but there's still a question of, well, are we a better team with Smith Rowe in the 10 because of his movement? And okay, we know Aubameyang on his day is a great goal scorer like we saw against Benfica, but do we have a better balance with Lacazette? You know, the funny thing is that for everyone who has an issue with Willian, and trust me, I've more than been on his case, you can point to some of our better football in the last few months being when he's been on the pitch, because he does a specific creative role out on the left. Now, I'm not saying you should be starting ahead of Pepe or Martinelli or anything. I think it's on the manager to find a way to get your better players in the team. But I recognise that there's a role for him, and clearly Arteta feels that way too. So it's going to be interesting. What we saw, I'm just going to play this along here, there's going to be a system change. That was how the lineup and the starting 11 looked really when we had the ball and were in attack, with Partey as almost the lone deep creator in midfield, a back three. I would be very surprised if we don't see a similar thing today. I think it worked really well. It was a more balanced 11 than we've seen in the past when Tierney's been missing. Only thing I've said is, I think if Smith Rowe's fit, you play him. So in that 10 role instead of Saka. But also, I think you play Pepe on the left, or even maybe Saka on the left, but basically have a left footer instead of Martinelli.
Yeah, I remember you were saying that because you want him to be a bit more direct down that side, get some more crosses in. Yeah,
something a bit more natural. The amount of times I saw Martinelli getting the ball and coming inside, and we spoke about that. But do you think he'll do a similar thing?
I think he has to do a similar thing to Sheffield United, because, like I said, the left back issue is an issue. It's an issue the club left them with when. Yes, we all wanted to see the back of Kolasinac, but at the same time, you would have thought the club would have some, mitigation behind that move out. Yeah. We didn't, and now in our biggest game of the season, we're having to consider one of our right backs at left back, or one of our central midfielders at left back. Yeah. So I think he has to. I think it worked well. And like I said, I'm going to reiterate, Slavia Prague and Sheffield United, regardless of a 40-game unbeaten run, regardless of Slavia Prague being top of the table, the way Arsenal should be looking at it is go in, get the job done and get out. Yeah, I completely agree. Now, actually, that leads on to something really nice about the Kolasinac thing. Do you remember talking about Kolasinac back in January when he left? I think I said something like, do you know what, I don't think he's as bad as everyone made out. I think he was also a product of playing in an Arsenal team in their worst years, and of course he wasn't. He had his problems. By the way, he's coming back this summer. We're going to have to sell him on, or whatever happens there. But isn't that sort of? I almost felt that situation summed up kind of our time under the Cronkies, especially in the last few years. A lot of paper over cracks, plasters to fix big holes in the team. There were moments where I thought, when Kolasinac went, and I didn't tweet this because I knew I'd get bombarded, but I really want to say this, and I can kind of say it with my chest a bit more now. Yeah, all right, we're happy we got rid of Kolasinac, and maybe if there was a problem there personally, then that's the right thing to do. But there's a little part of me thinking, but if Tierney gets injured, by the way, the most injury-prone player in our squad, who comes in? And that was a concern for me, because I said, fine, Kolasinac's gone, who are we going to replace him with? We didn't, and now we're having to do things like this, like Kolasinac Xhaka plays inverted left back. Cedric comes out of, he's our best right back, he's having to play left back, and it just sort of for me just sums up the whole mess at the club in terms of squad building. I don't think neither of us here are saying we miss Kolasinac. No, not at all. We shouldn't have got rid of him. I think it was the right decision to make. It's just that I think you'd expect the club the size of Arsenal to run smoothly to the point of one in, one out, one out, one in. making sure that there's damage limitations to every move.
Yeah.
But we very rarely do that.
And that's kind of, that leads nicely onto this discussion we wanted to have today. And guys, that is before a big game. I don't want that. I'm not trying to create negative vibes or anything here, because we're going to end on the positives.
We're
going to try to end on the positives. But I think it's important that I was driving up here today and I just stopped and I thought, really? Like, tonight's what we're worried about? However, hundreds of £1 million later, and I know investment's been a problem, we still spent money. We're still, however many years into this Emirates project, or whatever you want to call it, we're still a year and a half into Arteta's management.
Yeah.
We're quite deep into a lot of people's projects here. Why are we in a situation where we're worrying about this tie tonight?
Do you know the deepest project that we're in?
Oh, go on.
The Kroenke project. Arteta project's
true.
been 18 months, Edu one been 24 months. Vinay's been about 3.5 years. If you add his other roles at the club into it, over 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Kroenke's project's been the biggest project at this club, and it's the project that's consistently failed to deliver on key targets. And I'm using words because I've come from a project management background. That's what I did before coming into here. And if you have a project and you don't have milestones, key targets along the way, short-term goals linked to your long-term goals, this is what you end up with.
Yeah.
A mess.
Yeah.
So as much as people will talk about Arteta tonight, and rightly so, because I said it to you downstairs, as much as I bang on about Kroenke, he allowing the club to spend what we make is enough to beat Slavia Prague.
Yeah.
Now that's where it falls on Arteta, and it really disappoints and frustrates me, because I know Arteta's not the be-all and end-all matter at this club, but I also know that losing tonight, potentially not even making the final, is a massive L that, if any club has ambition, they would take action. Yeah. But we've seen the same cycle before.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to ask some pretty tough questions because I know you've got some for me as well.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, Arsenal's PR team is superb. Let's give them that, right? They have me believing. I hear things and I'm thinking...
And I'm here to bring you back down
to... And then Turkish comes in and tells me you're deluded, you're an idiot, it's all lies. I very much bought into the idea that Vinay, as the sort of CEO, I suppose, with Edu and Arteta, actually genuinely have Arsenal's best interests at heart.
What gave you that idea? Can you pick
some very good interviews. No.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, yes, the interviews, and not because I thought these are just great PR stunts. I actually thought it was good that the club were communicating with us to some degree. Midway through transfer windows, they'd say, "Look, guys, we're working on things. We're trying to put things together. We back our manager, blah blah." And then I've seen some action actually come to fruition. I think the Gabriel signing is a really good signing. I like that. We identified a 22-year-old who perfectly embodied what we needed as a ball-playing centre-back who was also physically commanding, left-footed, that was a big thing we needed, and had his best years ahead of him. And we got him for a good price, and that's under Edu and Arteta, and that was a big one. Luring Thomas Partey, I think it goes under the radar. He was comfortably Champions League football for Atletico Madrid every year, playing in a wonderful stadium in a wonderful city. And just being an Arsenal fan is not enough to say, you know what, look, I love Arsenal, but look, I'll support you on a Sunday afternoon. I don't need to play for you. Yeah. This is my career too, but he came. And of course, you've got the odd Willian, but then I look at January, Ozil out the door. I don't think any of us thought he was going to leave in January. And people can have their opinions on whether that was right or not, that we didn't play him more. But the point is, he became a bad egg, or he became someone who wasn't right to have around anymore. Yeah. And he moved on along with other players. So I have seen some action. It's actually really just the results on the pitch that concern me.
But when the action is too slow, you taint the incomings with the people you should have got rid of a few years before. So we can talk about Ozil, rightly so, his time was up. We can talk about Mustafi, rightly so, his time is up. But then if we talk about, and right before the biggest game of our season right now, I know people will say, I don't talk about players like this and that, but we're discussing it now. And if you don't move past players like Bellerin, players like Xhaka, players like Rob Holding, players that have let us down in the past, they will let us down again.
So those players have got to get us out of it tonight.
Well, a couple of them. I'm not sure if Bellerin's going to start tonight, but he might well do. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just feel like when you do things too slow, other players will get tainted. I look at Pepe, for example, and I see a different Pepe at Arsenal than I saw at Lille in his final season there. I look at Partey and I see a different Partey, albeit it's his first season, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt like I gave Pepe that last season. I just think players, characters, you know, 8-9 times out of 10 they fall in line. You know, it's only 1 or 2 people out of 10 that will come into a underachieving, underperforming environment, a joke of an environment, and stand up tall and, you know, either get their voice heard or their performances seen. You know, and Tierney's an example of that for me. He's come in and set a high standard, and I think Odegaard's another key example.
Yeah, I think
as much as we say Partey, albeit it's first season, Odegaard's come in January, 22 years of age, off the back of injuries, inconsistent seas that have diminished his name a bit from what it was at 16 years of age, but he's come in and shown that he's a cut above in terms of what's up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And at 22, that should be an eye-opener for all us fans.
He's been overachieving since he was 15.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a little bit of that in him, and a little bit of maybe he's thinking at 22, I really should have made it by now. What are the comment section saying? Is there, you know, because I think my biggest question to everyone watching this is, what's led us to here, and what's going to get us out, essentially?
People, let us know in the comments, and we're going to go through some questions because I can't really keep up with all the comments flying in at the moment. I'll make sure you get them in regarding this subject. James, tell them again. What, you know, we're going to talk, I'm going to take you back to the Champions League final now in 2006. And I want to ask you fans watching, you know, where is it? You know, by the way, anyone tuning in, this is a very different show. You know, we're normally doing a lot of analysis, we're doing Danger Man, but I think this is a really good opportunity to be live with the fans to talk about this kind of thing before a massive, massive match. I wanted to treat this as more of a radio show, I suppose. Yeah, look, tonight there's a chance of, you know, the bleeding to become worse. And by that I mean, listen, what Kroenke's done to this club is essentially stab us to the point where we're just leaking out. And the plasters that you talk about, you've mentioned plasters. Yeah. Over the last 15 years, it's been plasters. And us fans have deluded ourselves to think some of those plasters will work. But every time we put a plaster on, a bandage on, slowly but surely, small leaks come out either side. Slowly but surely. Now, this is another leak tonight. I say it's a leak because overall, tonight, go through or don't go through, there's a bigger problem at Arsenal Football Club. So it's a leak in the bigger picture. But that leak looks like the main issue. Yeah. Tonight looks like it's the main issue because either we want to get Champions League because we just want to talk about it, we want to banter with other fans, we want to, you know, have our chest out for a bit, which for me is not something I want. My chest will come out when this club starts moving accordingly and, you know, delivers that to me. Yeah. But, you know, this constant looking at the small bleeds that come out either side of these plasters, let's not forget that if you take off that plaster, there's a whole big wound there. Yeah. And if you don't repair that big wound, you can cover it up all you want. It's always going to leak. Yeah. One way or another, it leaked for Emery, it leaked multiple times for Wenger, it's leaking for Arteta now. Some of those managers have had a part to play. They don't get away with it. No. Some of the players have had a part to play. They don't get away with it. But at the same time, the owner keeps on getting away with it. You ask about what's gone wrong since the Champions League final. It coincides with a new owner coming in pretty much. It coincides with someone coming in and being happy under the current circumstances. That's the only link I see to our demise. I don't link our demise to 4 years ago. So can I play devil's advocate here a little bit? Because I don't disagree with you, but and let us know in the comments, where did it go wrong for Arsenal? And feel free to just interrupt me whenever people send it, or any super chat. We got a nice super chat here that says Arsenal to win and smash United in the final, Saka hat-trick. And we got one more that says, tonight could be a big nail in Arsenal being mid-table for a very long time. Love the show. Eventually the likes of Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe will want elite football, says Reese. And that goes part and part as what I'm saying about how the speed of an overhaul. If you don't do it quickly enough, some of your gems are going to be unhappy in the situation they're in. So this is where I want to be really frank, right? Yeah. I can't sit here and say that the Kroenkes and whoever's upstairs made a bunch of wrong decisions, and every single time I went, yep, that wrong decision, how are you doing this? You know, a lot of stuff over the last 3-4 years,
I've been kind of happy with. I think Wenger should have gone sooner, but I was happy that finally something was starting to happen in the background. I thought the appointment of Sven Mislintat was very shrewd. You know, we needed to succeed without overspending, and Mislintat had a great record of that, albeit he's responsible for a lot of the players we ended up with, but we'll talk about that later. I thought the appointment of Emery was smart. The guy's done it at where, let's be honest, a club like Arsenal were in terms of that severe side. Oh, this is just telling me that's going to run out of battery. Cheers. Emery did it with Sevilla, and I felt Sevilla was kind of where we were in our league, and I thought we kind of needed someone who was just going to overperform a little bit with what he had.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a problem with that. I thought the window we bought Tierney, Luiz, Pepe was a good window. And so,
can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Because what you raised good points. We have had moments that we can look at in happiness over the last few years. When Wenger left, we had no assets, none. So people saying an ex-manager can come in like Klopp, and you know, we had no asset to sell for 100+ mil. 3 years on, we've got assets: Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe. But I want to ask you something. Did them moments of happiness essentially aid in you taking maybe the foot off the gas in terms of any aggression towards the ownership?
100% it did.
Now,
100%.
Now, you said you was happy with Wenger going, albeit it was far little too late.
When I say happy, I mean, I think it was time.
It was about time.
But it was, I actually shed a tear that day when he did the speech. That was bloody hard to watch.
I had a drink, I can't lie. But what my point is, that moment of happiness that you saw because the board have made a decision with Wenger and it was the right time, well, it was about time and whatnot. How did they then get away with the years gone before that? Did that, your happiness, did that essentially, and it's not just you, majority of the fan base are tricked by these moments that, yes, and I was at that time thinking, yes, like we can move on, but at the same time I know it's going to be a rough ride. But a lot of people thought, yes, we can move on, let's see what happens. Emery comes in, it looks good, Europa League, but then we essentially give the ownership a clean slate. Arteta comes in.
And you know, that's part of the reason why I don't want to sack Mikel Arteta, is because I don't want it to be another clean slate for the people upstairs above him. So I agree with you. You know, in science, right, like you do a test and it yields certain results, right? And you can kind of maybe pick up what you want from those results. But if you do that test again and again with a bigger pool, a wider, what's it called? Basically, you just keep repeating the test. Suddenly, those results become clearer. Actually, this thing we saw the first time isn't actually as consistent as we thought. This thing we saw the second time doesn't happen as much as we thought. But this keeps popping up in all our results. And I think we've had a little bit of that with Arsenal, where Wenger took a lot of stick from Arsenal fans. And by the way, I wouldn't say rightly so in terms of the abuse and all that. That's disgusting. He never deserved that. But in terms of criticism, I think he'd got to a point where he warranted that criticism. The sheer persistence with players who weren't good enough. Theo Walcott played for this club for 10 years. And by the way, Theo seems a really great guy. And he was a real loyal servant to us.
It's never against any other characters personally. It never is.
Never. And he was a great servant to us. He scored a lot of goals, a lot of big goals, by the way, as well. But was he ever good enough for where Arsenal wanted to be? No. And for 10 years, we entertained that he might be. And that, for me, came more down to Wenger than anything else above. But then Emery comes in, a proven winner in a lot of ways, and he failed quite miserably. Because even though we finished a point off top four, we hit 70 points. It was a shocking tally. And then the season after, Emery sacked, Arteta comes in, wins the FA Cup. Same problems. He managed to win the FA Cup with these players, but still we're languishing in ninth. That doesn't add up. So it's almost like the more we've tried and tested, the more I'm realising every single manager had their faults. But let's be honest, they're not all bad managers. Even Arsene Wenger right now, this day, is not a bad manager. And that's where my attention has been drawn more towards what you've been fighting for, which is, you know, the fight against the Kroenkes and what they're doing with this club. So I'd say it's become clearer to me. I've had clarity of that.
There's no better shield than a manager like Arsene Wenger, you know. There is no better shield, and it's sad that they used him as a shield, and it's sad that Wenger allowed himself to be used as a shield. But he did. They used him as that. and essentially it tarnished his reputation come the end. And when that shield goes, you know, Emery's not a shield.
Yeah.
Arteta's not a shield.
Yeah.
We have no loyalty to Arteta, right, Emery? We had a whole lot of loyalty to Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
That's why it took so long for even fans to turn and then the club to turn. But following that, all the leaks are there to see. Wenger protected all those leaks. He done an amazing job considering the circumstances.
He kept Arsenal very classy, didn't he?
Well, he kept them classy externally to us, the picture
No, of
in
course,
front.
yeah,
but
yeah.
internally, the rot began a long time ago. Like you said, you asked the question and I'll flip it right back to that.
Yeah.
That's when the rot started. Kroenke coming in after the Champions League final, and slowly but surely, when the rot starts, it ends up how it is now. If you don't come in and manage it.
It's a fascinating discussion because Seth and I were on this show before the Sheffield United game going through every single excuse that Arsenal fans make for the club, for the manager, and we were dissecting how much of them are actually worthy, reasonable excuses. What are the comment sections saying? Where's everyone at with where this has kind of really gone wrong?
I'm seeing a lot of Kroenke outs. I'm seeing a lot of Arteta outs. So it's a mix. We're seeing some Arteta ins as well, a lot more Kroenke outs now, you know. So I think slowly but surely, like you said, when Wenger left, when the shield goes, when the plug goes, it all leaks, yeah? And we're seeing it more consistently now. We've chopped and changed from not wanting a manager to going to a head coach, going back to a manager within 3 years, and making a manager that hasn't managed before.
Yeah.
So you're taking away that maybe comfort of having that head coach role and then someone above taking some more responsibility, but now it's all thrown upon you.
Yeah.
You know, so I just think that slowly but surely more eyes are being opened, and I can see even from the comments here, this is the first time on AFTV we've managed to go into this topic in depth.
Yeah, I feel like almost we need like a good 2-hour interview. I feel like I'm on Life Stories, or you know, those interviews where someone's because we're having to do this very quickly, and we're having to talk about a lot of very complex things in half an hour, 20 minutes. You know, it's not easy, and also before a really big game. And the one thing I said when I joined AFTV or whatever, that I did not want to, I'll always be honest, I'll always be fair, and I'll always talk about the bigger issues, but there's a big game tonight. There's a huge game.
One more super chat.
Go on, take it.
And it says, you shouldn't be happy, James. The club allow Gazidis and Sanielli to steer the ship by doing dodgy transfers without supervision. Can't run a company or club without supervision and care. It's not right.
I want to respond to that really quickly before we move on.
Yep.
When we signed Nicolas Pepe, what percentage of that fan base said 72 million? That seems a bit. That's not good. That doesn't make financial sense for the club.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a risk. He's only proved it in Liga. Is that really the kind of player we should be looking for? I think we should be addressing these areas. How many of you guys said, there we go, and that's just
done and dusted. We was about to move on to it, but it's gone now, so it is what it is. And someone else, Tom actually says, where Arsenal went wrong was investing in end-of-career players like Cech, Mkhitaryan and...
I think there's a lot to that. I think there's a lot to that as well.
Yeah.
But just to finish my point,
you
know, none of us were saying that about Pepe. We were all saying, amazing, the club showed ambition. The club's gone out and tried to act like a big club. Well done. That's what we wanted. And so why is it that... What I'm saying is, it's very easy after the fact when you see how these things work out to have your opinions on it. But at the time, we're all very happy about it.
And again, you know what? At the time, I was ecstatic about Pepe because I wanted Pepe. I saw him from maybe December to the end of the season for Lille consistently, and I wanted him. So that was amazing for us to get him. But I never took my foot off the gas and made myself believe that he would be the be-all and end-all, because it wasn't only a winger we needed that year. So essentially, that wound I talk about, that plastered over and over again, now that wound opened up a bit the season prior, defensively. Koscielny out, Luiz came in. Luiz was the plaster here. What Pepe was adding a bit of glitter and gold to here to take your mind off of this wound. We'll put some glitter and gold there, so focus there. And then we'll go into the season with another plaster in Luiz over here, most red cards, most penalties conceded. That plaster leaks, you give that plaster a new contract, and so on. And so I just think that we're just in a cycle right now of leaks, that slowly but surely more fans will come to realise that, listen, it's not negativity, it's the reality. I don't want to be here discussing this. I want to be here 3-0 up from the first leg, not worrying about this, which is where we should be.
Worrying anyway, that's the thing.
We shouldn't be worrying because we should have got the job done.
I know. I know.
But we didn't.
We've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
We're getting on some positives, and by all means, jump in with any super chats, anything anyone's saying. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been nice to, people refer to you as a realist. I always see in the comments, Turkish, he's a realist. And it's good. It's good to go into it head on.
It's 50-50. A lot of people say negative. A lot of people say reality.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I'm going to be a bit wild here and say, you know what? I think there are more positives at this club than sometimes we acknowledge.
Okay, I think you're more positives than negatives.
No,
I was about to say, James, please.
No, I'm not that deluded. Some of the players that come out of the youth academy.
Assets being one, we just mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Joe Willock and Maitland-Niles, love him. I really want them to make it at the club, but they might not. But we're going to get a healthy fee for them when they move on to other Premier League clubs, which, by the way, they've proven since January that they can play at a Premier League level. I think so. I think that's a big tick. Arteta and Edu, I still find it hard to judge the job they're doing. Arteta more so I can, because we're 9th and I can see the results. Edu I struggle with because I've seen a lot of good, I've seen some bad. But I believe for the first time that there's people who have a football brain running the club. Now that doesn't make Edu a great technical director, and it doesn't make Arteta a great manager. But I believe that they are sensible football people who are genuinely trying their best, and I don't have the same animosity I had to a Gazidis, who I was like, I don't trust you at all. Yeah. I don't have a clue what you're trying to do here. Sanyehi I quite liked, because I always felt in his own slightly, let's say, maybe not the most financially pragmatic ways, he was just like, you know what, Arsenal, Barcelona, who cares? Same thing. Let's get the checkbook out and let's get it done. But I feel like there's more people at the club who I have faith in than I did before. Am I wrong, or is that good am I wrong, and is that good PR?
As soon as you said that, one quote from Edu came to mind, and that quote was about Willian, when he said, Willian needs time, patience. If you don't think Willian is a good player, then you don't know football. That to me is quite condescending, because a player that's played Premier League football for that many years, and Edu is not experienced enough for him to come with that chest. If he had the years of Raul Sanlle's career, maybe then he can come out and say something like that.
But he's experienced as a Premier League footballer. He's experienced as an Arsenal footballer and knowing what it takes to play at the highest level.
Yeah.
Should we be listening to these people a bit more? And when I say these people, I mean Edu, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, Kieran Tierney, people who are around the club who say, listen, Arteta's a genius.
Shall I tell you who to listen to? Emmanuel Petit, Jens Lehmann, Cesc Fabregas, Robin Van Persie.
Yeah,
that would be
you can listen to both. They can both be right.
I think when Tierney aside, I think when players have commercially invested interest in the club, you won't get the full reality of the situation. And I think some players have shown that in the past, and I think some players haven't. And then recently, Petit and Lehmann's comments, very raw, very real. And over the years, Fabregas and Van Persie's are very eye-opening. And I think those are the ones I get more from.
I'm going to play devil's advocate again here. Legends of the club. I'd never wish to speak ill of them.
Yeah, well, not Van Persie.
No, of course, but Petit, Lehmann. As far as I'm aware, they're not around the club anymore.
Yeah.
Lehmann, I think there was a bit of an issue with obviously him not being a part when he was before. Is there a sense that, actually they're not around, so maybe we can't... Basically, if I'm going to be really blunt, apart from having friends in the industry and around the club, what do they know?
I actually don't think you need to be in and around the club to see what's happened. I don't think you need to be in and around the club to know what's happening, to know the problems. You don't need to be.
And I'm just playing devil's advocate, by the way. Like these,
understandably, I think early on in our demise, it was well hidden. You'd have to be in the know.
Yeah.
But I think now, after Wenger, it's there for all to see.
Come on, Turkish, let's send us some positives now.
We're going to win tonight. That's the positive.
Really?
I think we're going to win.
It's a big positive.
That's the only positive I can
Any
give
other
you guys,
positives?
I can't lie. Well, that's the biggest positive I can say. If we win tonight, we're through. Like, what more can I say,
fine.
at least?
I'm going to leave on a positive, which is that whether the people in charge are going to prove to be at the level we want them to be or whatever, I feel a lot of love for some of these players in this team. Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard. When Lacazette goes out, I know he's going to try his absolute best, whether he's at the level we want or not. Gabriel, Mari, Tierney. Martinelli. And I think, despite everything, and we've said this on other shows, football can change very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And maybe Arsenal can have one of those big turnarounds soon.
Well, let's hope so.
And hopefully their team doesn't die as quickly as my tablet battery did, because that's a shocker. First time on this show this happened. But Turkish, thank you for joining me.
No worries, James.
This was a nice little taster into stuff that we're going to talk about more this summer, and with Cecil away, it was a good opportunity to touch into this. We've not talked too much about Slavia Prague, so we did that last week and in several preview shows. You've done all the interviews with the fans, everything. Any closing statements from fans? Anything anyone saying?
No, people are saying lineups out, but I'm on the Arsenal Twitter. I can't see no lineups. So unless it's.
Do you know what it is? The UEFA get it quite quickly.
So is it on UEFA? Or
yeah, it might be that. So the starting 11 show is coming now. We're going to wrap up, guys. There's problems at the club. We know that, but there are positives as well. And sometimes you just need little beacons of hope, and it will blow up into one big thing. So let's stay positive. Let's go win tonight. Let's get the job done. A European semi-final to look forward to would be amazing.
Yep.
And we build from there again in the summer. Turkish, thanks for joining me.
Let's hope you get this done.
Thanks for joining us on the build-up. Starting 11 coming next.
Come on.
This week, Thursday, on AFTV Picks, it's the big one. Arsenal versus Slavia Prague. And because it's so big, we're giving away a big prize. You can win yourself a share of £1,500. You've got to be over 18 to enter. Select your options. Click the link in the description and a share of £1,500 can be yours.